My name is Joyce. I'm 28 years old, and I was standing frozen at my cousin's $500,000 wedding as my aunt publicly mocked my dishwashing job to 300 guests. Family members laughed cruelly while I gripped my cheap handbag. Suddenly, a uniformed chauffeur entered the ballroom, scanning the crowd. "Ms. Joyce Chen, from Chen Industries," he called loudly. The room fell silent. My heart pounded because I hadn't told anyone about my secret. The driver approached with an urgent message that would shatter every lie my family believed about me. Before we dive into this incredible story of family betrayal and sweet revenge, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. Are you someone who's ever been underestimated by your own family? Hit that like button if you believe success is the best revenge, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about turning pain into power. Trust me, what happens next at this wedding will leave you speechless. So grab your favorite drink and let's expose some family secrets together. The San Francisco morning fog had barely lifted when I first understood my place in the Chin family hierarchy. I was 16 when my parents died in that car accident, leaving me with nothing but memories and $300,000 in medical debt from their final days. The extended family gathered at the funeral, whispering about what to do with me, their orphaned niece who suddenly had nowhere to go. My Aunt Diane stepped forward that day, her designer heels clicking on the church floor as she announced to everyone that she would take me in. "Family takes care of family," she said, her voice dripping with false sympathy, while her eyes calculated the social points she'd score for her generosity. She was my mother's older sister, a real estate mogul who owned half the commercial buildings in Chinatown and lived in a 7-bedroom mansion in Pacific Heights. Her husband, Uncle Robert, barely looked up from his phone during the entire discussion. As an investment banker at Goldman Sachs, he measured everything in profit and loss, and I was clearly being filed in the losses column. Their daughter, Brittany, just 2 years older than me, stood there in her designer black dress, already seeing me as competition for her parents' attention and resources. The first night in their mansion taught me everything I needed to know. While Brittany's room looked like something from a teen movie, with its king-sized bed and walk-in closet, they showed me to what they called the guest quarters, which was actually a converted storage closet behind the kitchen. "Just temporarily," Aunt Diane said, "until we can figure out something more permanent." That temporary arrangement lasted 6 years. Tyler, Diane's son, and Brittany's younger brother, was the only one who showed me any kindness. He'd sneak me extra food when his parents put me on portion control to save money, and sometimes he'd let me use his computer for homework when Brittany hogged the family laptop. But even his kindness had limits. When his parents were around, he pretended I didn't exist, too afraid of losing his inheritance to stand up for what was right. By day, I attended public school while Brittany went to private prep academy. By night, I worked at Wong's restaurant washing dishes until my hands were raw and pruned. The family assumed this was my only job, never bothering to ask why I sometimes came home at 5 a.m. instead of midnight. They didn't know about the online coding courses I was taking during my breaks, or the business plan I was writing on napkins between loads of dishes. "At least she's learning the value of hard work," Aunt Diane would tell her friends at their wine tastings, speaking about me like I wasn't standing right there serving their appetizers. Not everyone can be born lucky. Some people are just meant for service industry. The truth was more complex than any of them imagined. That restaurant job was just one piece of a larger puzzle. After my shifts at Wong's, I'd take the BART to a 24-hour co-working space in Soma, where I was building something that would change everything. Using the small life insurance payout that Aunt Diane didn't know about, I had started developing an AI-powered data analytics platform that could predict market trends with 87% accuracy. 4 years into living with them, things had started to change. My platform, which I named Chen Industries, after my parents had caught the attention of some angel investors. We secured our first round of funding, then our second. By the time I turned 25, I was managing a team of 30 engineers and data scientists. But I kept washing dishes at Wong's, partly because I needed the cover story, and partly because Mr. Wong had been kind to me when no one else was. The family never suspected anything. How could they? To them, I was just the charity case, who should be grateful for their leftover food and hand-me-down clothes. They never noticed when I started buying my own clothes, always choosing items that looked cheaper than they were. They never questioned why I stopped asking them for money, assuming I was just getting better at stretching my dishwasher wages. When Brittany announced her engagement to Derek, heir to a tech fortune, the family's excitement reached new heights. The wedding would be the social event of the year, a chance for Aunt Diane to show off her connections and wealth. The planning consumed them for months, with Brittany trying on dresses that cost more than most people's cars, and Diane booking the most exclusive venues in the city. My invitation came with a handwritten note from Diane. "Joyce, we'll need help with cleanup after the reception. I'm sure you understand." I understood perfectly. Even at her daughter's wedding, she couldn't resist reminding me of my place. I RSVP'd, yes, carefully folding the expensive invitation and filing it away with all the other evidence I'd been collecting over the years. As I dressed for the wedding in a simple black dress I'd borrowed from Emma, my best friend, and secretly my CFO, I thought about all the tests I'd given my family over the past 2 years. Small opportunities to show they cared about me as a person, not just as their personal servant. Every single time they had failed. Tonight would be their final test, though they didn't know it yet. "You could end this charade anytime," Emma had said as she helped me with my hair. "Just show up in designer clothes and watch their faces." But I needed to know. After everything I needed to see if there was any love left in their hearts for the orphaned girl they'd taken in, or if it had always been about appearances and control. So I arrived at the St. Francis Hotel in my borrowed dress and secondhand shoes, ready to play my part one last time. The ballroom at the St. Francis Hotel was a vision of white orchids and gold accents with crystal chandeliers casting rainbow patterns across the faces of San Francisco's elite. I found my seat at table 19, tucked in the back corner near the service entrance naturally. The place card had my name printed in notably smaller font than everyone else's, as if even the calligraphy was meant to remind me of my lesser status. The ceremony had been beautiful in that calculated way that everything Brittany did was beautiful. She'd walked down the aisle in a $70,000 Vera Wang gown, tears perfectly timed to fall just as the photographer captured her face. Derek had looked genuinely happy, which made me feel a twinge of sympathy for him. He had no idea what kind of family he was marrying into. As the reception began, I watched my relatives work the room like predators stalking prey. Aunt Diane held court near the head table, her emerald necklace catching the light as she laughed at jokes that weren't funny, made by people she wanted things from. Uncle Robert clustered with other finance bros, probably discussing insider tips that would be illegal if anyone bothered to investigate. Brittany floated between groups, accepting compliments on her dress, her ring, her choice of flowers, everything except her choice to treat her own cousin like hired help. The speeches started after the second course. Brittany's maid of honor gushed about their friendship since private school. Derek's best man told embarrassing stories from their fraternity days at Stanford. Then Brittany took the microphone, her voice honeyed with fake emotion, as she thanked everyone who had made this day special. She named cousins who'd flown in from Hong Kong, great aunts who'd given generous gifts, childhood friends who'd helped with planning. She thanked the florist, the band, even the venue coordinator. She didn't mention me. And finally, Brittany said, and raising her champagne glass, "I want to thank my amazing parents for showing me what true love looks like, and for giving me everything I could ever want." The crowd awed appropriately, though I wondered how many of them knew about Uncle Robert's 3 affairs or Aunt Diane's prescription pill habit. That's when Diane decided to take the microphone. My stomach clenched as I recognized the gleam in her eyes. She'd had just enough champagne to loosen her tongue, but not enough to slur her words. This was her favorite state, the one where her cruelty came wrapped in the ribbons of social graces. "Thank you all for celebrating our precious Brittany's special day," she began, her voice carrying across the ballroom. As I look around this room, I'm reminded of how blessed some of us are. Her eyes found me at table 19. "You know, not everyone in this family has been fortunate enough to achieve great things. Some people, despite all the help and opportunities given to them, still end up washing dishes for a living." A ripple of uncomfortable laughter went through the crowd. Some people didn't know who she was talking about. Others did and were already craning their necks to look at me. I kept my face neutral, my hands folded in my lap, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. "But that's what family is for," Diane continued, her smile sharp as a blade. "We take care of our charity cases. We give them a place at the table, even if it's not at the good tables." More laughter, louder this time. "Joyce, sweetheart, wave to everyone so they know who I'm talking about." 300 faces turned toward me, some with pity, some with amusement, some with the blank stares of people who didn't care enough to have an opinion. I lifted my hand in a small wave, my movement mechanical, rehearsed. I'd learned long ago that reacting to Diane's provocations only made things worse. "She's been washing dishes at Wong's restaurant for 6 years now," Diane said, pretending to think. 7. "It's hard to keep track. But hey, someone has to do those jobs right. And at least she's not on the streets. We made sure of that." Uncle Martin, Diane's brother, decided to pile on. "Hey, Joyce," he called out, his voice booming with false joviality. "You didn't bring any of that industrial dishwasher smell with you, did you? This is a classy joint." The laughter was louder now, more confident. Once the pack sensed weakness, they all wanted to take a bite. Cousin Linda, always eager to please Diane, chimed in next. I was wondering where Joyce got that dress. The thrift store has some real finds if you know when they get new donations. It's probably borrowed, someone else said. I doubt dishwasher wages cover dry cleaning. I glanced at Tyler, hoping for even a flicker of sympathy, but he was studying his champagne glass like it held the secrets of the universe. Derek looked deeply uncomfortable, whispering something to Brittany, but she just patted his hand and smiled. This was normal for them. This was entertainment. Emma, sitting beside me, reached for my hand under the table. "Say the word and we leave," she whispered. "You don't have to take this." But I did. One more test. One final chance for anyone in this family to show a shred of decency. I squeezed Emma's hand, but shook my head slightly. Not yet. Diane wasn't done. She never was. "You know Joyce's parents would be so proud," she said, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "They always said she'd make something of herself. And she has. She's made herself useful. Not everyone can be CEOs and doctors and lawyers. The world needs dishwashers, too. Maybe we should have her help clear the tables tonight," Brittany suggested, finally joining in. "She's got the experience, after all. Might as well put those skills to use." The ballroom erupted in laughter. Real, genuine, cruel laughter, the kind that comes when people feel safe in their superiority, when they think there's no consequences for kicking someone who's already down. I memorized each face, each laugh, each person who thought my pain was amusing. That's when the ballroom doors opened and a man in a chauffeur's uniform walked in. He was tall, professional, carrying himself with the kind of authority that made people pay attention. The laughter died down as he scanned the room, clearly looking for someone. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying effortlessly. "I'm looking for Ms. Joyce Chen from Chen Industries." The silence was instant and complete. 300 people held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Diane's face went through several expressions: confusion, annoyance, disbelief, before settling on suspicion. "There must be some mistake," she said, her voice sharp. "Joyce doesn't work for any Chen Industries. She washes dishes." The chauffeur pulled out his phone, checked something, then looked directly at me. "Ms. Joyce Chen, I have an urgent message from your board of directors. They need you at headquarters immediately." The chauffeur's words hung in the air like a challenge to everything my family thought they knew. I remained seated, hoping against hope that anyone would speak up for me before I had to reveal the truth. Instead, Aunt Diane's laugh cut through the silence, brittle and mocking. "This is ridiculous," she said, stepping down from the podium with her microphone still in hand. "Someone's playing a prank. Joyce, did you hire this man? How embarrassing for you." The chauffeur maintained his professional composure, though I could see a flicker of surprise in his eyes. "I assure you, ma'am, there's no mistake. Ms. Joyce Chen is the CEO and founder of Chen Industries. The acquisition papers for the Meridian Group need her signature tonight, or we risk losing a $50 million deal." The ripple that went through the crowd was different this time. Not laughter, but shock. Phones started coming out as people began Googling frantically. Brittany had gone pale under her carefully applied makeup, her perfect wedding day suddenly derailed by an impossibility. "That's enough," Uncle Robert said, standing up with the authority of a man used to being obeyed. "I don't know what kind of sick joke this is, but you need to leave. Now, before I call security." I finally stood up my borrowed dress, suddenly feeling like armor. "It's not a joke, Uncle Robert." My voice was steady, calm, the voice I used in board meetings when million-dollar decisions hung in the balance. "James, I appreciate you coming, but couldn't this have waited until Monday?" The chauffeur, James, who was actually my head of security, gave me an apologetic look. "I'm sorry, Ms. Chen. The Meridian board moved up their deadline. Their CEO is flying to Shanghai in 3 hours, and he insists on having the signed contracts before he leaves." "Of course he does," I muttered, then louder. "Fine, how long do I have?" "The car is waiting outside. If we leave now, we can make it to the office and back within an hour." Aunt Diane's face had gone through several shades of red before settling on purple. "This is impossible. You wash dishes? I've seen your pay stubs. You live in our storage room." "I choose to live in your storage room," I corrected gently. "Just like I choose to wash dishes at Wong's. Did you really think I needed your charity? Aunt Diane, I've been testing you. For 2 years, I've been waiting to see if any of you could love me without money being involved. You all failed." My phone buzzed. My assistant, Catherine, who'd been waiting for this moment as backup. I answered it on speaker. "Catherine, I'm so sorry to interrupt your family event, Ms. Chen." Her voice filled the silent ballroom. "But the Wall Street Journal wants to confirm your quote for tomorrow's article about the acquisition. Also, Forbes called about the 30 under 30 photo shoot next week. Should I reschedule Reschedule Forbes, I said, watching my family's faces transform. And tell the Journal I'll send my statement after I review the contracts tonight. Of course. Oh, and congratulations again on the Tech Innovator Award. The trophy arrived at the office today. I hung up as Uncle Martin fumbled with his phone, his face growing paler by the second. Holy shit, he breathed, forgetting he was at a fancy wedding. Chen Industries, AI-powered predictive analytics, valued at $200 million. Joyce, is this really you? Founded 4 years ago with a $20,000 loan from my parents' life insurance. I confirmed. The same insurance policy you tried to claim wasn't valid, Uncle Robert. Good thing I had copies of everything. Brittany's phone clattered to the floor. She'd found my company website complete with my professional headshot and bio. You rejected my application, she whispered. 6 months ago, I applied for a marketing position and got a form rejection. Actually, I didn't reject you, I said. My hiring manager did. She said your resume was all fluff and no substance, and your cover letter was full of typos. I stay out of hiring decisions to avoid conflicts of interest. The room had erupted into chaos. Guests were showing each other their phones, reading articles about Chen Industries, about me. Someone had found the TechCrunch article from last year, from dishwater to data the Joyce Chen story. Another person was reading my LinkedIn profile out loud, listing companies that used our software, Microsoft, Amazon, several Fortune 500s. Diane snatched Uncle Martin's phone, reading frantically. Her face went from purple to white as she scrolled. This can't be real, you're lying, this is all fake. James stepped forward, pulling out a folder. Ms. Chen, I have the preliminary contracts here, if you'd like to review them before we go. The Meridian Group increased their offer to $52 million for 30% equity stake. I took the folder, flipping through it, casually knowing everyone was watching. The contracts were real, of course, but this wasn't really about Meridian. This was about showing my family exactly who they'd been mocking for the past 12 years. Joyce? Uncle Robert's voice had changed completely. The dismissive tone was gone, replaced by the oily smoothness he used with potential investors. This is incredible. Why didn't you tell us we could have helped? I have connections. You have connections. I laughed, and it wasn't a kind sound. Uncle Robert, you're 3 degrees of separation from every major tech CEO in Silicon Valley, and not once in 6 years did you offer to introduce me to anyone. Not once did you ask what I was interested in. You assumed I was too stupid to understand your work. Tyler finally found his voice. I knew. Everyone turned to stare at him. I've known for 2 years. I saw Joyce on the news when she won the Innovation Award. I didn't say anything because... He looked at his parents, then back at me. Because I'm a coward. At least you're honest, I said. That's more than anyone else here can say. Derek, who'd been silent through all of this, finally spoke up. Wait! You're the Joyce Chen. Your company tried to acquire my family's firm last year. We couldn't afford your offer. The irony was delicious. Brittany had married into a family less wealthy than what I'd become. I could see the realization dawning on her face, the calculations running behind her eyes. Her grand wedding, meant to showcase her superiority over her charity, Kay's cousin had become the stage for her humiliation. Ma'am James said gently, We really do need to go if you're going to make that meeting. I nodded, but I wasn't done. Not yet. You know what the funny thing is? All these years, you thought you were teaching me humility, teaching me my place. Instead, you taught me exactly who I never wanted to become. I looked at each of them in turn. Diane, you taught me that cruelty comes in designer clothes. Robert, you taught me that money without morals is worthless. Brittany, you taught me that jealousy makes people ugly no matter how pretty they are on the outside. The silence in the ballroom was complete. Even the waitstaff had stopped to watch. This wasn't just a family drama anymore. It was a public reckoning. But here's what you didn't know, I continued. While you were laughing at me for washing dishes, I was learning. Every night at Wong's, I talked to immigrants who'd risked everything to build new lives. I met single mothers working 3 jobs to put their kids through school. I learned more about resilience, determination, and real success from them than I ever could have learned from any of you. The transformation was instantaneous and pathetic, like watching sharks smell blood in the water, except they'd just realized they'd been circling one of their own predators. Aunt Diane's face rearranged itself from shock to something she probably thought looked maternal. It looked more like constipation. Joyce, sweetheart, she cooed, approaching me with her arms outstretched. This is wonderful news. I'm so proud of you. You know I was just joking earlier, right? It's family tradition to tease each other at weddings. Right, everyone? The assembled relatives nodded like bobbleheads, suddenly eager to agree with whatever narrative might save them. Uncle Martin was the first to really grovel, pushing past his sister to grab my hand in both of his sweaty palms. Joyce, my brilliant niece, I always knew you had the Chen entrepreneurial spirit. You know I've been thinking about diversifying my portfolio. AI is the future, isn't it? Maybe we could discuss investment opportunities? Family discount, of course. Wipe out. I pulled my hand away, resisting the urge to wipe it on my dress. You want to invest the same man who told me 6 months ago that I should be grateful you all didn't put me in foster care. His face flushed, but greed won over shame. That was a misunderstanding. What you meant was exactly what you said, Emma interrupted, standing beside me. She'd been quiet long enough. By the way, Martin, you might want to check with your accountant about those tax returns from 2018 through 2020. The IRS has been asking questions. Martin went pale, stepping back like Emma had slapped him. She smiled sweetly. Oh, I should introduce myself properly. Emma Richardson, Chief Financial Officer of Chen Industries. I've been Joyce's best friend since college, and I've heard every single story about how this family treated her. Documented quite a few of them, too. The panic rippling through my relatives was almost tangible. Cousin Linda, who'd mocked my dress earlier, suddenly found her voice. Joyce, your dress is actually quite elegant. Vintage designer, right? I can always spot quality. You know, I'm in between jobs right now, and I'd love to chat about opportunities at your company. The dress is from Target, I said flatly. $40 on clearance. And Linda, you're not in between jobs. You were fired from your last 3 positions for stealing office supplies. I know because you applied to my company twice, and we run thorough background checks. Brittany had been frozen in place, her wedding dress pooling around her like melted ice cream. Now she moved forward, tears streaming down her face, ruining her professionally applied makeup. Joyce, I'm so sorry. I've been horrible to you. I was so jealous. You were always so smart, and Grandma loved you more before she died. I felt like I had to compete. Compete? I asked. Brittany, there was no competition. You had everything. Parents, money, opportunities. I had nothing but grief and debt. You won by default, and you still felt the need to kick me when I was down. I know, she wailed. I'm a terrible person, but we're family forgives each other, right? And I could really use a job. Derek's family isn't as wealthy as we thought, and Derek's face darkened at that revelation, but I was focused on Brittany's audacity. You want me to hire you, after spending years telling everyone I was too stupid to do anything but manual labor? People change, she insisted. I've changed. Haven't I, Mom? Diane jumped on that thread like a lifeline. Yes, we've all grown so much. And Joyce, darling, you simply must move back home. To the main house, of course, we'll give you the master guest suite. It has its own bathroom and everything. You shouldn't be living wherever you're living now. I live in a 5-bedroom penthouse in Soma, I informed her, with a view of the Bay Bridge. But thanks for finally offering me a real bedroom after 6 years of letting me sleep in a converted closet. That was temporary, Diane protested. We were going to renovate. For 6 years, Emma asked. That's some slow renovation, almost as slow as the check you never wrote to reimburse Joyce for the groceries she bought with her dishwashing money while you claimed her as a dependent on your taxes. Uncle Robert had been unusually quiet, probably calculating his exposure. Now he stepped forward with his businessman face on. Joyce, let's discuss this rationally. You're clearly a talented entrepreneur. I could have helped you avoid some rookie mistakes if you'd come to me. My firm has relationships with all the major VCs. Your firm? I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. You mean the firm where you're about to be investigated for insider trading, the one where you've been siphoning money from client accounts to fund your girlfriend's boutique in Marine. The color drained from his face completely. How do you know about Stephanie? I finished. The 26-year-old yoga instructor you set up in that nice little shop. The one you visit every Tuesday and Thursday when you tell Diane you're playing golf. I know everything, Robert. Every dirty secret, every skeleton in every closet. You taught me that information is power. Remember when you locked me out of the family computer because you said I couldn't be trusted? Diane turned on her husband with murder in her eyes. But I wasn't done. The room was recording everything on their phones, and I wanted it all on record. Speaking of affairs, I continued, Linda, does your husband know about your personal trainer, the one you pay in cash from the money you steal from your mother-in-law's dementia care fund? Linda gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Her husband, sitting at table 12, stood up slowly, his face dark with rage. Or Martin. I continued, turning to my uncle, who was backing away. Should we discuss the 2 sets of books you keep for your construction company? The real ones and the ones you show the IRS. The FBI has been very interested in those. especially the government contracts you bid on with false credentials. You're lying, Martin sputtered. You can't know. I hired private investigators, I said simply. The best money could buy. Turns out when you have resources, you can learn a lot about people. Every cruel word, every humiliation, every time you made me feel worthless, I remembered. And I investigated. I have files on every single person in this room, whoever looked down on me. The panic was spreading now, family members frantically whispering to each other, some already heading for the exits. But Diane wasn't giving up. She'd ruled this family through fear and manipulation for too long to go down without a fight. You ungrateful little bitch, she hissed, her mask finally cracking completely. We took you in when no one else would. We fed you, housed you. You used me as unpaid labor, I corrected. You took the Social Security benefits meant for my care and spent them on Brittany's sweet 16 party. You forged my signature on documents to steal my parents' small inheritance. Oh yes, I have copies of those too. Even if that's true, the statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing fraud, Emma interjected. Which you committed as recently as last year when you filed false insurance claims using Joyce's name. We have the paperwork. Tyler had been silent through all of this, standing apart from his family, like he was trying to physically distance himself from their crimes. Now he spoke up. She's telling the truth. All of it. I've seen some of the documents she's collected. Joyce, I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry I never stood up for you. Tyler, Diane screeched. You're taking her side. There shouldn't be sides, Tyler shot back. We're supposed to be family, but all we ever did was treat her like garbage. And for what? Because she was orphaned. Because she needed help. What the fuck is wrong with us? It was the most backbone I'd ever seen Tyler show, and I felt a flicker of hope for him. Just a flicker, but it was there. Ma'am, James said quietly. The meeting? I nodded. The Meridian deal was real, but it could wait another hour. This, however, couldn't. Before I go, let me make something crystal clear. Every person in this room who ever mocked me, who ever made me feel less than human, who ever took advantage of a grieving teenager, you have two options. Stay away from me forever, or face the consequences of your actions. I have enough evidence to destroy every single one of you. You wouldn't, Diane said, but her voice shook. The scandal would affect you too. Would it? I asked. The orphan who built a multi-million-dollar company while washing dishes to survive. The one who was abused by her wealthy relatives but still succeeded. That's not a scandal, Diane. That's a superhero origin story. The press would eat it up. I let the silence stretch, watching fear bloom in their eyes like black roses. They'd taught me patience over the years, taught me how to wait for the perfect moment to strike. This was it. But before you decide whether to stay or go, I continued pulling out my phone. Let me share a few more truths. You see, I didn't just investigate you all. I've been strategically positioning myself for this moment for 2 years. I pulled up a document on my phone, projecting it onto the white wall behind the head table. The wedding's AV system was surprisingly useful. Diane, remember when you refinanced your properties last year? You were so proud of getting such a good rate from that new lending company. Cascade Financial. Her face went still. What about it? I own Cascade Financial, I said simply. I bought it 6 months before you applied, which means I hold the mortgages on 60% of your real estate portfolio, including the family mansion in Pacific Heights. The gasp from the crowd was audible. Someone dropped a champagne glass, the shatter, punctuating my words like an exclamation point. That's illegal, Robert stammered. Predatory lending conflict of interest. Everything was done through shell companies and trusts, Emma said cheerfully. Completely legal. Joyce made sure to offer below market rates, actually. Very generous terms, as long as payments are made on time, of course. Uncle Robert. I continued scrolling to another document. Your investment firm has been struggling, hasn't it? Lost 3 major clients this year? You've been desperately looking for new investors to keep afloat. Well, congratulations. You found them. Through a series of completely legal transactions, I now own 42% of your firm. Impossible, he breathed. The other partners would have told me. The other partners were very happy to sell, I said, especially after someone provided them with evidence of your embezzlement. They wanted out before the ship sank. Don't worry, I haven't reported you yet. That depends on what happens next. Brittany was clutching Derek's arm so tight her knuckles were white. Joyce, please, this is my wedding day. Yes, it is, I agreed. Your $200,000 wedding, paid for with money that came from where exactly? Because I have bank records showing large cash deposits into your parents' accounts over the years. Deposits that match withdrawals from my trust fund. The fund Diane was supposedly managing for my benefit. I clicked to the next document. Speaking of your wedding, Brittany, did you know Derek's family's company has been looking for a buyer? They've been hemorrhaging money since their CFO was caught cooking the books. Guess who made them an offer last month? Derek's face went ashen. That was you, the anonymous buyer. Still pending due diligence, I said. But yes, your family was very eager to sell. They needed the money to avoid bankruptcy. Funny how these things work out. You planned all of this, Diane said, her voice hollow. You've been planning this for years. 2 years, 8 months, and 16 days. I confirmed. Ever since the night of Brittany's engagement party. Remember that night, Diane? You made me serve drinks to your guests, then told everyone I was slow when I mixed up 2 orders. You laughed about how I'd probably be washing dishes until I died. That's when I decided to test you all one final time. I walked closer to the head table, my borrowed shoes clicking on the marble floor. I kept washing dishes. I lived in that closet. I let you mock me, humiliate me, treat me like nothing. All while building an empire. I wanted to see if anyone, just one person, would treat me with kindness when they thought I had nothing to offer. Waps. We gave you shelter, Diane protested weakly. You gave me a closet and emotional abuse, I corrected. But let's talk about what else you took. Mom's jewelry, the pieces grandmother left specifically to me. You told me they were lost in the move, but they weren't. Were they, Brittany? Brittany's hand flew to her neck where she wore an antique pearl necklace. My mother's necklace. Mom said. She said I wouldn't miss them. I finished. That pearls didn't suit someone who worked in a kitchen. I have the security footage, by the way. From your room, the camera you didn't know about installed by the previous security company. It shows you trying on my mother's entire collection. The collection you sold piece by piece to fund your shopping trips. Those cameras were removed years ago, Uncle Robert said. The visible ones were. I agreed. The others remained. Every cruel word, every theft, every moment of abuse, all recorded, all saved. The crowd was mesmerized, now phones out, recording everything. This would be all over social media within hours. The downfall of one of San Francisco's prominent families live at a wedding reception. But my favorite discovery, I said, pulling up another document, was about you, Martin. You've been stealing from the family for years, haven't you? Skimming from the shared investment accounts, taking more than your share of grandmother's estate. The others don't know about the offshore accounts in the Caymans. You're making this up, Martin said, but sweat was pouring down his face. Account number 48517629983. I recited. Balance as of yesterday, $8.7 million. Money that should have been split among all the cousins, including me. But you convinced Diane to cut me out, then stole most of it yourself. Diane whirled on her brother, fury replacing fear. You stole from us! Like you're any better, Martin shot back. You've been taking Joyce's inheritance for years. They turned on each other like rabid dogs, years of buried resentments exploding to the surface. Linda accused Diane of sabotaging her marriage. Robert blamed Martin for a failed business deal. Brittany screamed at her mother for ruining her wedding. The family that had united in their cruelty to me was devouring itself. Enough, I shouted, and surprisingly they stopped. You want to know the best part? Everything I've told you tonight is just the tip of the iceberg. I have enough dirt to bury each and every one of you. Tax evasion, fraud, embezzlement, adultery, abuse. Years of evidence, all waiting to be delivered to the appropriate authorities. What do you want? Diane asked, defeat in every line of her body. Money, an apology. I don't need your money, I said. I make more in a month than you spend in a year, and your apologies are worthless. What I want is justice. I pulled out a stack of documents James had been holding. These are settlement agreements. Each of you will sign one. You'll return every penny you stole from me with interest. You'll cease all contact with me permanently. You'll undergo mandatory therapy for your various personality disorders, and you'll donate 50% of your net worth to charities supporting orphan children. 50%, Robert gasped. That's insane. That's non-negotiable, I said. Sign or I release everything. Your choice. You have 5 minutes to decide. And if we sign, Linda asked, you'll destroy the evidence. I'll hold it in escrow, I corrected. Break any term of the agreement and it all goes public. Think of it as insurance for your good behavior. Tyler stepped forward. What about me? I know I don't deserve different treatment, but I studied him for a long moment. You knew about my success and said nothing, but you also never actively participated in the abuse. You were a coward, not a villain. Your agreement will be different. Mandatory therapy, yes. But instead of the donation, you'll work for my foundation helping kids who age out of foster care. Minimum 5 years. I'll do it. he said immediately. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. You can't make it right, I told him. But you can do better going forward. Derek had been whispering urgently with Brittany. Now he stood up, his face set. I'm not signing anything. This is extortion. Actually, it's consequence, I said. But you're right, Derek. This doesn't involve you. Your prenup protects your assets from Brittany's debts anyway. Oh, you didn't know she insisted on a prenup. She was planning to divorce you after 2 years and take half your money. I have the emails between her and her lawyer. The look Derek gave his new wife could have frozen hell. Without another word, he walked out of the ballroom, leaving Brittany calling after him in her wedding dress. 4 minutes, James announced. The car really does need to leave soon, Ms. Chen. I watched my family huddle over the agreements, some crying, some cursing, all broken. They'd thought they were so powerful, so untouchable. They'd thought a grieving orphan was the perfect victim. They'd been wrong. The next 3 minutes were the longest of my life. Watching the people who'd tormented me for over a decade wrestle with their choices was both satisfying and strangely hollow. This wasn't how I'd imagined victory would feel. Diane was the first to crack. I need to call my lawyer. No lawyers, I said. This is between family. You sign now or the offer expires. Your choice. This is coercion, she spat. No court would uphold. You're right, Emma interrupted. No court would uphold these agreements. They just prosecute you for the crimes Joyce has evidence of. This is actually the merciful option. Uncle Martin signed first, his hand, shaking so badly the signature was barely legible. 50%, he muttered. You're taking 50%. I'm letting you keep 50%, I corrected, of money you largely stole anyway. Consider yourself lucky. One by one they signed. Linda crying about her children's college funds, not mentioning she'd been stealing from their accounts too. Robert muttering about market volatility and unfair targeting. Each signature was witnessed by Emma and James, everything legal and binding. Brittany was the holdout. She stood in her wedding dress, mascara running down her cheeks, looking like a Gothic painting of ruined beauty. My wedding is destroyed. My husband left. You've taken everything from me. I took nothing, I said quietly. I simply revealed the truth. Your wedding was built on lies and cruelty. Your marriage was based on greed. I just pulled back the curtain. I could have been different, she whispered. If you'd told me about your success earlier, I could have changed. Could you? I asked. Or would you have just been fake nice while trying to use me for connections? We both know the answer, Brittany. She signed the agreement, her signature as dramatic as everything else about her. Then she surprised me. I'm sorry, she said, and for the first time in my life, she sounded sincere. I'm sorry for all of it. You deserve better. I did, I agreed, but I got better anyway, despite all of you. Diane was the last to sign her face, a mask of barely controlled rage. As she handed over the document, she couldn't resist one final barb. Your parents would be ashamed of you, using their memory for revenge. That's when I lost my composure. Not in anger, but in laughter. Real, genuine laughter that echoed through the ballroom. My parents, I said when I could speak again. My parents would be proud that I survived you. They would be thrilled that I built something from nothing. They would be ecstatic that I'm honoring their memory by helping other orphaned kids avoid families like ours. I pulled out my phone one more time, showing a press release scheduled for Monday morning. The Chen Foundation, launching with a $100 million endowment, providing housing, education, and mentorship for orphan teenagers, making sure no kid ever has to choose between abusive relatives in the streets. $100 million, Tyler breathed. That's half my net worth, I confirmed. The real half, not the forced donations you're making. This was always the plan. Build something big enough that I could help others. You all just motivated me to build faster. The room was silent except for the sound of crying and the distant hum of the city outside. 300 wedding guests had just witnessed the complete destruction of a family dynasty, and they couldn't look away. There's one more thing, I said, turning to address the room at large. Many of you have been complicit in the Chen family's treatment of me. You laughed at their jokes. You ignored their cruelty. You benefited from their connections while watching them abuse a grieving teenager. I remember each and every one of you. The fear spread beyond my family, now rippling through the crowd like a virus. How many of them had skeletons in their closets? How many had things they didn't want exposed? But I'm not vindictive, I continued. Not to everyone. So here's my offer to the room. Anyone who's done business with the Chens based on corruption, anyone who's participated in their schemes, you have 1 week to come clean to the authorities. Full confession, full restitution. Do that, and I'll keep your names out of my reports. You can't threaten everyone, not someone called out from the back. I'm not threatening, I said. I'm offering amnesty. 1 week. After that, my forensic accountants start sharing their findings with the FBI, IRS, and SEC. Your choice. James stepped forward. Ms. Chen, we really must go. The Meridian board can wait another 5 minutes, I said. I'm almost done. I looked at my family one more time. They looked smaller, somehow diminished. The designer clothes and expensive jewelry couldn't hide what they really were anymore. You know what the saddest part is? I asked them. If just one of you had shown me genuine kindness even once, things could have been different. If someone had asked about my dreams, my goals, my life beyond washing dishes, I might have shared my success with you. We could have built something together. Instead, you taught me that family is just a word. Real family is chosen, not born. Joyce, Tyler said quietly, for what it's worth, I'm going to try. The foundation, work, the therapy, all of it. I want to be better. I studied him for a long moment, then nodded. I hope you mean that. The kids we'll be helping deserve better than what we got. What happens now? Diane asked, her voice small. After we've paid, after we've done what you asked. Nothing, I said. Nothing happens. You live your lives smaller and hopefully wiser. You stay away from me, you get therapy, you try to be better people, or you don't. Either way, it's no longer my problem. I turned to Emma, ready to go build something better. She smiled, the first real smile in this room all night. Always. As we walked toward the exit, James flanking us protectively, I heard Aunt Diane call out one more time. Joyce, wait. I paused but didn't turn around. I'm your aunt, she said desperately. Your mother's sister. Doesn't that mean anything? I did turn, then meeting her eyes across the ruins of her daughter's wedding. It meant everything once, when I was 16 and alone and terrified, when I needed family more than anything in the world. But you taught me that blood doesn't make family. Love does, kindness does, respect does, and you showed none of those things. We can change, she pleaded. Give us another chance. I gave you 12 years of chances, I said. Every day for 12 years you had the chance to be decent. You chose differently. Now live with those choices. The San Francisco night air hit my face like a blessing as we exited the hotel. The valet had already brought around the Tesla, and James held the door open for Emma and me. As we pulled away from the St. Francis, I could see faces pressed against the ballroom windows watching the girl they'd dismissed drive away in a car worth more than most of their annual salaries. So, Emma said, settling into the leather seats. How do you feel? Empty. I admitted, surprising myself with the honesty. I thought it would feel better, like victory. Instead, it just feels done. That's healthy, she said. Revenge fantasies always feel better in your head than in reality. But you didn't really do this for revenge, did you? I considered that as James navigated through the city streets. No, I finally said. I did it for closure, to stop wondering if they could have loved me, to stop hoping things could be different. Now I know for sure, and I can move on. My phone buzzed with a message from Catherine. The Meridian board is getting antsy. Should I stall them further? I smiled, typing back. Tell them I'll be there in 20, and Catherine start drafting a press release about the Chen Foundation. I want to announce it tonight. Tonight? Emma asked. I thought we were waiting until Monday. Plans change, I said. I want something good to come from this day, something clean and hopeful. Those kids deserve better than what happened tonight. As we drove through the city, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. All those nights washing dishes until my hands bled, studying code on broken laptops in 24-hour cafes, pitching investors who laughed at the dishwasher girl with big dreams. Every rejection, every humiliation, every moment of doubt had led to this. James, I said. Change of plans. Take me to Wong's restaurant first. Meow, he looked confused but adjusted our route. The Meridian deal will still be there in an hour, I said. But Mr. Wong closes at 10, and I need to see him. Wong's restaurant looked exactly the same as it had the first night I'd walked in desperate for work. The neon sign flickered, the windows were slightly grimy, and the smell of soy sauce and garlic filled the air. It was perfect. Mr. Wong himself was behind the counter, all 70 years of him still working hard. His face lit up when he saw me. Joyce, my best dishwasher. You here for your old job back? Nay, not exactly. I laughed, hugging the man who'd shown me more kindness than my blood relatives ever had. I'm here to make you an offer. I explained quickly about the Chen Foundation, about our plans for job training programs, about how I wanted Wong's to be our flagship partner. We'll pay for renovations, equipment, upgrades, everything. In exchange, you train kids who need a first chance. Give them what you gave me. His eyes misted over. You remember old Wong after becoming big success. You were my family when I had none, I said simply. Real family. We worked out the details quickly, Mr. Wong insisting on feeding us despite my protests about the Meridian meeting. As I sat in the booth, where I'd once fallen asleep over textbooks eating the best pot stickers in San Francisco, I felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe, or just the absence of old pain. You know what? I told Emma. Cancel Meridian, reschedule for Monday. But the 50 million will still be there Monday, I said. Tonight I want to be here, where it all really started. We stayed until closing, helping Mr. Wong clean up like old times. He told stories about other kids he'd hired over the years, their successes and struggles. I took notes already, planning how the foundation could help them all. As we finally left, Mr. Wong pressed a fortune cookie into my hand. For luck, he said. Though you don't need it anymore. I cracked it open in the car, reading the fortune by streetlight. The best revenge is a life well lived. Cosmic timing. Emma laughed. Think the universe is trying to tell you something. Maybe, I said, tucking the fortune into my wallet. Or maybe Mr. Wong writes his own fortunes. Either way, it's true. James drove us to my office then, where I signed the papers, creating the Chen Foundation. $100 million earmarked for kids who'd been dealt bad hands, but refused to fold. As I signed my name, I thought about my parents, about what they'd think of all this. They'd be proud, Emma said, reading my mind like always. Not of the money or the revenge or any of that, but of this, of you helping others. The city sparkled below us, full of dreams and disappointments, cruelty and kindness. Somewhere out there, my family was dealing with the wreckage of their own choices. Let them. I had bigger things to build. You know what the best part is? I said, standing at the window. 10 years from now, when the foundation has helped thousands of kids, when Chen Industries is a household name, when everything I build has made the world a little better, they'll have to watch it all. They'll have to see what I became despite them. And they'll know that they could have been part of it if only they'd chosen love over cruelty. That's cold, Emma said admiringly. I like it. It's not about being cold, I said. It's about being free. They're no longer my burden to carry. They're just people I used to know who taught me how not to be. My phone buzzed with notifications. The wedding videos were already going viral. Tech CEO exposes abusive family at wedding was trending. By morning, everyone would know my story. Good. Maybe it would help some other kid out there washing dishes and dreaming of more to know that it gets better, that you can build your own family, that success really is the best revenge, especially when you use it to help others. So what now? Emma asked. You've slain your dragons, started your foundation, made your peace. What's next for Joyce Chen? I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in years. Now we build, we grow, we help every kid who's been where I've been. We create the family I never had, one rescued dream at a time. I paused, then added, but first we celebrate. Real celebration, not whatever that disaster at the St. Francis was. Want to get boba tea and plan world domination? Always? Emma laughed. But you're buying. I hear you're good for it now. As we left the office, heading into the night, and whatever came next, I felt my parents' presence like a warm hand on my shoulder. I'd kept my promise to them. I'd survived. I'd thrived. And now I'd help others do the same. The girl who washed dishes was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, someone who'd learned that family isn't about blood or obligation or tradition. It's about choice, and I'd finally chosen to stop looking back and start looking forward. My phone rang, an unknown number, but I recognized Tyler's voice. Joyce, I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I wanted you to know I just submitted my resignation to Dad's firm. Starting fresh, I want to earn my place at the foundation, not just be given it. That's a start, I said. Report to the foundation office Monday at 8. You'll be working with our outreach team, learning what these kids really need. It won't be easy. I don't want easy, he said. I want to be better. Thank you for giving me the chance. Maybe there was hope for him yet. Time would tell. But that was tomorrow's concern. Tonight was for new beginnings and boba tea and planning a future that had nothing to do with the past. The dishes were done. The empire was built. The family was chosen. And the girl who'd lost everything had finally found her way home. That's where our story ends tonight. If you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told you'd never amount to anything, remember that your circumstances don't define your destiny. You do. And sometimes the best way to prove people wrong is to succeed so spectacularly that they have no choice but to see the truth. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had a moment where you proved your doubters wrong? What would you have done in Joyce's situation? Remember to hit that like button if you believe in second chances and new beginnings, and subscribe for more stories of triumph over adversity. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it gets better, that success is possible, no matter where you start. Until next time, remember that the best revenge isn't anger or hatred. It's building a life so amazing that the people who hurt you become footnotes in your success story. Stay strong, dream big, and keep washing those dishes while you build your empire. Thank you for listening, and may your own journey lead you to the family you choose, not the one you're given.